Taylor will lead us in prayer. Councilman Jackson will lead us in the pledge.
Bow your heads. Oh, merciful God, our Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the ability to have life. As we convene this meeting, we ask for your guidance and your direction and allow us to execute city business according to your will and your purpose for your people. I pray for every bereaved family that has suffered through gun violence. We ask for protection over our employees and our first responders as they do the work of the city each and every day. We ask right now that you would keep us covered, and I ask that you bless every family that is represented here under the sound of my voice. May God bless us and keep us all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Taylor.
Present.
Councilman Brooks.
Here.
Councilman Calafell. Councilman Butcher. Councilman Jackson.
Here.
Councilman Green.
I'm here.
And Councilwoman Bowman.
Present.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minute administrative conference and special meeting Monday, February 13, 2013, and the city council meeting Tuesday, February 14, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions? If not, let's vote.
Councilman Butcher.
Yes. Sorry.
Councilman Brooks. Did you mean to vote no?
Sorry?
Did you mean to vote no?
No, I meant to vote yay.
Okay.
It hadn't come up on mine yet, but I'm yay.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
You got it?
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does any council member have any awards, recognition, or distinguished guests not to exceed 15 minutes? Well, I do. I have first coming up, I have Mr. Roy Griggs, and the assistant attorney will read the resolution. Mr. Griggs, I saw you come. Would you come up, please? And she'll read the resolution. And if you have some folk with you, you can also bring them as well, Mr. Griggs.
A resolution honoring Roy Griggs for his extraordinary leadership, service, and philanthropy in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the surrounding areas, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. Whereas Roy Griggs is CEO and owner-operator of Griggs Enterprise Incorporated, and whereas throughout his career, his focus has been on driving results through collaborations, partnerships, and relationships. And whereas Roy Griggs continues to make contributions not only within the Shreveport-Bossier community where he lives, but within the wider business and economic landscape of the Architects. And whereas Roy Griggs holds positions on numerous boards, including an appointment by Governor John Bell Edwards to the Louisiana State Racing Commission. He serves as president of the Port of Cattle Bossier Commission and served as past president of the Boy Scouts of America Norwella Council. He has memberships in the Rotary Club, the Greater Shreveport Chamber of Commerce, and Shreveport-Bossier African American Chamber of Commerce. And whereas Roy Griggs' philanthropic contributions include serving as title sponsors of the Shreveport Regional Arts Council, Crew of Harambe, and Chef Orlando Chapman Memorial Golf Tournament, as well as supporting contributions to the Junior League, Committee of 100, and Sheriff's Safety Town, among others. And whereas in April of 2022, a $2 million campaign was launched to establish the Roy Griggs School of Business at Southern University Shreveport. With the recent campaign underway for the proposed Ronald McDonald House to be located in Shreveport, Griggs was recently appointed to the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Arkansas Board of Directors. And Whereas during the COVID-19 pandemic, Roy Griggs McDonald's provided 1,150 meals to frontline workers at LSU Ochsner Medical Center, provided over 1,000 Be Our Guest cards to firefighters and emergency medical service workers, and sponsored Coffee with a Cop held in Jefferson, Texas, and Shreveport with both police chiefs in attendance. And whereas Roy Griggs' robust energy drives him to serve the community with a passion as he continues to make a transformative impact on the lives of others. And whereas Roy Griggs is married to Nelva Griggs, and they are active members of the Stonewall Baptist Church in Bossier City. They have 4 children and several grandchildren. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council for the City of Shreveport, in due legal and regular session convened, that the Shreveport City Council honors Roy Griggs for his extraordinary service, leadership, and philanthropy in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the surrounding areas.
Mr. Griggs. Mr. Griggs, I'd like to say, and we want going to have remarks from council members and also from you, but I'd just like to say in the Baptist church, they have a song that says, "May the work I've done speak for me, and your work speak for you," and that's just a token of what's about you. But I just felt in my spirit that you are our Black history, and I just want to say thank you, Shreveport, thank you, and may God bless you and may keep you, may forever smile on you. At this time, we'll have remarks from
Mr. Griggs, I echo the sentiments of the chair. Thank you for being the epitome of Black history in the city of Shreveport, but thank you for being history that allows all of us to come together to make for a better city and a better community. Your countless works are just amazing, the contributions that you give to all of us. Not just the sausage biscuits that I go and pick up at McDonald's, but all of the time and your commitment to education, to quality of life, and making a better quality of life for the citizens of Shreveport, Louisiana. I thank you so much, sir, and you are a blessing to the Shreveport community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Griggs, you're not only Black history, you're our current, you're our present, and you are our future. My boys are the biggest supporters of your business. We stop by there on a daily basis, needless to say. But I'm most impressed about your willingness to continue to give back. We have a lot of people that make a lot of money in this city, but just the willingness to continue to give back and help others is really the legacy that you're leaving, the legacy that you're going to leave behind, and that's what I'm most impressed with. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Griggs,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you're about Shreveport history, not just Black history. And that's very important. I feel, not that I eat there, I do eat there quite often. I probably spend a good bit of money at your restaurants, but
That's okay.
I enjoy it. But you know, the things that you've done for the city of Shreveport, there's not anybody from Southern Trace to MLK that doesn't know Roy Griggs and knows what Roy Griggs is about and what he's done for our city. So I think that this is great. I'm sorry that the chairman beat me to the punch on this since you live in my district, but no, I echo everything he said, and I'm grateful that you're part of Shreveport, and I pray for your business and for you and your family, and congratulations, well deserved.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Bowles.
Mr. Griggs and Mrs. Griggs, we appreciate you a lot in our community. Even though you're in Butcher's district, you're in all of our communities, and we do thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Griggs, you have a word, and then I'd like to come down after you finish and present you with a...
All right, first, thank you so much for that, Councilman Green and council members, Mayor Arsenault, administrative staff, and all gathered here today. I'm humble, I'm grateful for this opportunity, but to God be the glory. It's not what I've done, it's what God has allowed us to do, and with the great team that supports me every day. I have my wife by my side, my son's back there, my daughter, and this has been a great community, and I could not I've done the things that I have done without the support of this great city. And then as we think about Black history, you know, could not be where I'm at today. Have to give credit to those forerunners, those who came before me, those great leaders that I stand on the shoulder of today. Not about me, because times are totally different now. There was a time when it was not easy for a Black person to do what I'm doing today. Those forerunners made it possible for me and you to have a seat at the table. And I'm so grateful for that. So grateful to this great city that welcomed me here, and have to give back every opportunity I get. And I have to admit, this was a place I didn't want to come, but when I came here, I found it was a great place to work, great place to live, and a great giving community. And I'm so happy to be here and excited about the work that we do, my team, my wife, my friends, and my supporters that help me do the work. And as always, Roy Griggs gets the credit, but there's so many behind me that keeps me standing tall. And I'm so appreciative for them and the work that they do. So I thank you again for the recognition. And I say it's not about me. I don't know why God has allowed me to do the things I've done, but I just give him praise and glory. And thank you for recognizing me. I don't do it for that. It's just who I am, and I just feel compelled to do what I can do to make the city a better place. Like I told our mayor, whoever's in that seat, that's who I'm going to support. And I commend you for the work that you do. I know a little bit about leadership and what you do. I know it's not easy. You always don't get credit for what you do. But if you do it from a servant heart, that's what is required. And I commend you and I appreciate you for the work that you do. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
China, will you come up? And Tony. China, my daughter. Tony. Oh, thank you. That's a big man.
Next, we have Mr. Larry Anderson. Larry, did Larry make it? Do we have Mr. Larry Anderson? Oh, come on up. Thank you for coming, Larry. The assistant city attorney will read the resolution.
A resolution honoring Lawrence Andrew Anderson for his extraordinary contributions to sports and the Caddo Parish school system, and otherwise providing with respect thereto. Whereas Lawrence Anderson was born in West Monroe, Louisiana, and attended Neville High School, where his team won the state championship in football in 1972. And whereas Lawrence Anderson played college football at Louisiana Tech University, where he earned all-conference recognition. And whereas Lawrence Anderson is a former professional football player who played cornerback and kick returner for 7 seasons for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Indianapolis Colts. And whereas Lawrence Anderson was drafted in 1978 by the Pittsburgh Steelers as a return specialist. During his time as a Steeler, they were 2-time Super Bowl champions. And whereas Lawrence Anderson set a Super Bowl record for return yards in Super Bowl, he also held as many as 4 Super Bowl return records at once. And whereas, upon retiring from the National Football League, Lawrence moved to Shreveport in 1984. He began a career with the Caddo Parish Public School District, where he was a teacher, coach, assistant principal, and child welfare and attendance supervisor. He recently retired as Director of Child Welfare and Attendance from Caddo Parish Schools. And whereas Lawrence Anderson is best known for his compassion, caring, and humility by his peers. His greatest success has been to witness students being successful in academics as well as the social area. And whereas Lawrence Anderson attends St. Luke CME Church and serves as a choir member. He is married to Linda Anderson and has 2 sons, a daughter, and 7 grandchildren. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council for the City of Shreveport in due legal and regular session convened that the Shreveport City Council honors Lawrence Andrew Anderson for his extraordinary contributions to sports and the Caddo Parish School System.
Larry, I'd just like to say thank you, man. You do so much, and you're so quiet in doing it, and I just thought it was time that we recognize you in Shreveport. Really don't know that you're here because you're just so quiet, and I just appreciate all that you've done and all that you do. I was expecting you to have on black and gold today, but you got purple on, but we'll have to roll with that. But I'd just like to say congratulations, man, and God bless you. We're going to ask if any council member have any words. You can do so at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for your contributions to this community. Now I understand why he likes these Steelers so much. But sacrifice is selfless in that regard, and you have contributed all of what you love to this community, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate you, and thank you for being a part of Black history.
Yes.
Echo the sentiments. Shreveport has so much positive role models such as yourself. We don't get a chance to celebrate and talk about it enough. So definitely thank the chairman for recognizing this and recognizing you. And I appreciate you and continue to do the work that you're doing for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for all you do for the community. We appreciate you and try to instill this in some of our young boys. They need this. Thank you.
Larry, you may have some words, and then we got to have a presentation for you.
I would just like to say thank you to you, Mr. Chairman, and to the remainder members of this council, and Mr. Mayor, to say thank you as well. And just would like you just to always keep the children in mind. That's the bottom line. They are our future. So thank you so much for recognizing me. I really appreciate it. You make me feel like I made some accomplishments in my life. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I knew today nobody else was having a guest, so we also have a special guest, a person who's possibly might be the next governor of this state. We have him visiting with us. He's one of my best friends. I asked Mr. Hunter Lundy to come by and say a few words to council. Mr. Lundy, would you come on up, Brother Hunter, and say a few words, and then we'll move to Mr. Kraft.
Mr. Chairman, councilwomen and councilmen, Mayor, I have to say it, I'm privileged to be here tonight to see these great people honored, a great entrepreneur, a great athlete and coach and educator, and I come from a family of educators. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, and then she went on to be a college teacher. My sister's a retired kindergarten teacher. My daughter's a teacher. My grandfather was a high school football player, and unfortunately, and a college high school coach and a college football player. He played in another era when it was called Mississippi A&M and not Mississippi State. And that's how old. And he came to Louisiana during the war. And my mother was a daughter of a rice farmer. And she met my dad when he transferred to Lake Charles to be close to his family. And then, so I'm the product of the Lundy family. My mom and dad, I grew up in Lake Charles, and I went to LaGrange High School. And my experience with Shreveport growing up was on occasion getting clobbered by Captain Shreve or Woodlawn High School or Byrd High School, because I played high school football. And so I know, I remember the days, and I was younger, a lot younger, but I did see Joe Ferguson put a whipping on LaGrange High School. And I was in high school when Robert Parrish, at 7 feet tall, could bring the ball down the court like a guard. And so, and he was signing autographs in those days. So I have those memories of this city. But I made the decision at the end of 2021 I would leave the law practice and the businesses that I was involved in after 40 years, and I would run for governor. And you know, my calling in life has always been to help people, and that calling hasn't ceased. So I will continue to help people. I'm just going to go from the courthouse to the Capitol. And so that's what I've shared, you know, and I have done a little research, and I know y'all went through a mayor's election this past year, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of the statistics, but there's such a great opportunity, and you'll see me being different from the other gubernatorial candidates in that I have a heart for Central, North Louisiana, Northwest Louisiana, Northeast Louisiana, East Louisiana, as well as what's below I-10. And so this economy here has such great potential. You know, 75% of the citizens have broadband subscription. 87% have high school degrees. 25% have college degrees. You have a fast start program, so you have workplace development. All these things translate to trade, transportation, and utilities. The one factor that I'll talk about that no other gubernatorial candidate will talk about is poverty. It's the elephant in the room. So we're the state with the greatest poverty rate in the nation. There's 24.5% poverty in this city. That all can be fixed, and we have a plan to do that. And so with great opportunities like the LSU health system, economically it puts $600 million in this community, and it has the potential to be as good or better than the University of Alabama at Birmingham. 30% of the Shreveport population is less than 18. So they call it a cyber city when you have that much age group in a population. So what does that mean? And this is something I shared briefly with the mayor a few weeks ago, was that you could create a technical triangle between LSU Shreveport, Louisiana Tech, Grambling, LSU and Alexandria, and you could make this cyber city in this technical area into something that's known better than anywhere else in the country. So there's so much potential here in this city. So you're going to find out that I'm the candidate that will run for the whole state, and that I will have a special interest in this community. One of the things that I have in my mind is that we're going to build another international airport. You know, you got one that's called an international airport in New Orleans, but there's going to be one built either in Shreveport or Alexandria or between the two. Why? Because we can't close our air traffic down due to the storms, which happens. And so the storms haven't affected North Louisiana and Central Louisiana as bad as they have. So that's something that you leaders in the community need to put on the back burner, because we're going to make an effort to build an international airport in a different region in the state.
Thank you.
And so,
Governor,
is my time up?
Yeah,
I'll
time
stop.
up. I just want
Well, let me
people up
stop.
here to know about you.
Well, thank you for,
Yes, sir.
go look at Lundy for Louisiana.
All right.
Look at my bio. God bless you, and thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. And last but not least, I invited Mr. Ken Kraft to come and recite the speech from Dr. Martin King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
for the
sir. Thank you.
invitation.
Thank you so much.
I memorized this speech on the night the Beatles appeared on Ed Sullivan in February of '64. All the boys watching TV, I was in the library studying Dr. King's speech he had given on August 28th in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Important words. I'm going to get worked up because I channel it and I start to feel it, so pardon me if I get emotional. Here we are, August 28, '63, in front of the Lincoln Memorial with a huge crowd. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic presence we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous deed came as a great beacon of hope to millions of former Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a glorious daybreak to the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the Negro is sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of this republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity in this nation. And so we have come to cash that check. A check which will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise up from the dark valley of segregation and come up to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the pit of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, it is a beginning. And those who just hope the Negro will be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will be neither rest nor relaxation in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The roars of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of the nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something I must say to my friends who stand upon the wrong threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for justice by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct ourselves on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all of our white brothers. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up to our destiny, and their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways or the hotels of the city. We cannot be satisfied when the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We cannot be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating, "For whites only." We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice pours down like waters and freedom like a raging stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here today out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come here fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom has left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair, I say to you today, my friends. And so, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day in the roadhouse of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of justice. I have a dream that one day, that even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of peace and justice. I have a dream that my 4-year-old children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racist, with its governor having his lips cursed with the words interposition and nullification, I have a day that one day in Alabama, little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted and every mountain and hill shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of God shall be revealed. And all flesh shall see this together. This is our hope, and this is the faith that I will go back to the South with. And with this faith, we will be able to heal out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together. And when this day will come true, and when this day comes, we will be reminded of that song, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. And if America is to become a great nation, this must become true. And so, let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And when this day comes, and when we allow freedom ring, we will let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every city and every state. And we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands together and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Thank you. Thank you. Councilwoman Taylor.
It was during this last week of Black History Month, that the city apologized for what happened to Little Union Baptist Church and the students at Booker T. Washington. And on this day, that video was shown. And this evening on KSLA, there will be a documentary, and as Dominique Ben said, that 40 minutes is not enough, where you will be able to see the tragedy of that day, and you will understand why that apology needed to be issued from the city of Shreveport. And some of those students sat right here in the chamber during that time, and the video that was shown, there was no audio that is attached to that video, but what you would see would be the live scenes and listening to the accounts from Pastor McLean and his brother and others that were there. Mr. Kraft, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you on this last day of honoring African American history, because it is such an important history, and our contributions were so many don't want us to talk about or teach our children or teach each other, and how whites and blacks and so many other ethnicities were so important in the relationship of civil rights, and not just civil rights, but human rights. So I thank you, sir, for that on today. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Kraft, coming from a black man, I want to say thank you. Back during that time, it was white men like you who made it possible for us to move forward. And I want to say thank you, and may God bless you, and may He keep you, and may He forever smile on you. Thank you for your passion.
Amen.
Thank you for the meaning that it carries in your heart. And if you know it carries that in your heart, just think about what is carried in my heart. Because I'll tell you today, Mr. Kraft, sometimes in this life, it is difficult being a black man. It is difficult being a black individual in this day and time. Even though this is 2023, it is still difficult sometimes. But I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. May God bless you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I almost said Mr. President. Mr. Chair, Ken, you and I have known each other. I can't even see you. You and I have known each other for a lot of years, and when I have the opportunity to listen to your Gettysburg Address or Declaration of Independence, we talk about the Bill of Rights. I Have a Dream every time. I think the last time you did I Have a Dream, it was Halloween, and you did it for everybody that was willing to kind of hang out and do the trick-or-treat thing, and it was wonderful. Every time I hear you speak, I hear our forefathers speaking. Your passion, your conviction, your dedication to the freedom of these United States, and righting the wrongs that these United States have seen to where we are today is admirable. And I really appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate you being the citizen and taking up this challenge. And for anyone out there, this is not an easy task. It wears on you to do this kind of performance. And I know that maybe performance is not the right word, because I know that it's more than that for you. And I really appreciate it, and I'm so proud to call you my friend. Thank you so much.
Anyone else?
I voted for you.
I'll give you that $5 as soon as the thing's over.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Mayor, do you have any awards recognitions of distinguished guests?
I do. Let me first add my appreciation to Mr. Kreff for the recital. It's always moving to me, and I appreciate you very much. Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Leonard Adams to come forward. And if your family's here, Mr. Adams, you can bring them forward with you. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman and Council, most of you are aware that on February 22nd, there was a Corporal Tina Morris was called to a Circle K. And at that point, she was accosted by the person she was there to assist with, and there were some good Samaritans that assisted her without thinking about the risk to themselves. The first person to arrive was Mr. Adams.
Wow.
And Mr. Adams happens to be our Director of Workforce Development in the Department of Community Development. And I am very proud to honor him today and to thank him for his service. There are two other people who were also involved. They were not able to be here. I'm hoping at some point in the future to be able to bring them to give them the same recognition. But Mr. Adams, on behalf of the City of Shreveport, I want to thank you for your heroism, for your volunteerism, and for what you did that helped to make our community a safer place. Was something you did not have to do, and we appreciate that you did it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the way, Mr. Chairman, Corporal Morris was invited but was unable to be here today.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to let you know why she was not here as well. And that is all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, do you have any other communications related to city business?
No, sir, I don't.
Thank you.
Miss Moore, watch Chief Smith. He'll try to recruit him.
Does any member have any concerns for Mr. Green in property standards? Anyone have anything for Mr. Green? Thank you.
I think I sent you the demolition for request. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Green. Ms. Clark, do you have a master plan report today?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. As I promised them yesterday, I would be extremely short. We are in the final stages of letting out the RFP for the master plan update that the council approved to be done last year. Once that is done, we are very hopeful that we will start this process in April. We will have an opportunity to revisit the master plan that was adopted in 2010. The city of Shreveport has, as you know, has changed tremendously from 2010, and we will get an opportunity to have some independent eyes looking at the recommendations that were made from that document and make other recommendations and determine directions that the city should be taking at this point. We're extremely excited about, although I don't seem excited, but I am extremely excited about the possibilities that this will be for the city of Shreveport. And as you call each month, I will be able to bring you updates on where we are with that document. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Everyone should have received their budget or actual financial report on yesterday. There are no public hearings. Madam Clerk, would there be any legislation added today? Thank you. Today we will hear public comments on agenda items only. The Vice Chair will control the time and the individuals.
Okay. Sammy Mears.
Thank you. Sammy Mears, 1901 Centenary Boulevard, Apartment M110, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101. Today I'm speaking on Resolution 9A31. This is a great idea to encourage and asking the Shreveport Police Department to place temporary moratorium on the situation right away involving the citations that pertain to the violations getting enforced at once by the photographic speed and enforcement system and getting it done right away. This situation cannot and must not continue because people have really complained about it a lot. People drive through the school zones. If one person does not get ticketed, another person does going through the school zone, and they're not even breaking the law. It's ridiculous and very annoying to these people that get ticketed for nothing. They feel like they're being mistreated. And the situation needs to be corrected. So if this can be taken care of, it'll be appreciated. And the Highland area doesn't have any white censored or red light cameras that people are fussing about. They keep saying that we need them right away. They've told me that. That's why I had to bring it down here today so it would be known. And the fact is they feel that it's just ridiculous how they still run red lights and they don't abide by the law. And that is the truth. We need these cameras at all the intersections for Highland. So if this situation could please be helped, if you'll help us in the Highland area with this area, this would be very much appreciated too. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Cheryl White.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Dr. Cheryl White, Professor of History at LSU Shreveport. I reside at 452 Southfield Road, 71106. And I am here to speak to Ordinance D4, the Riverfront Development Fund. And I just wanted to share with you, can I have these passed to each one of the council members? I think here's one for the mayor and as well, and Mr. Dart. This is just to show you the plan that we have in place for the construction of the monument I spoke with you about briefly last month. This is the memorial that will honor the 800 plus people who are entombed together in a single mass grave in our city cemetery. Just a little reminder, I think I told you this last month, that we, not to place any blame on this body, of course, but it was the city council that made the decision. in September of 1873 to open a single mass trench. And so we have worked at the university for the last 10 years. This has been a 10-year project of ours to put together a list of the names of those that we have, and there are about 70 who are known but to God, and that is how they will be honored in this monument. So just to sort of give you an idea of what that's going to look like, it will cover approximately 2,000 square feet. It is a large monument, and it serves a dual purpose. It will have 8 pedestals that will honor the names of those that we know who heretofore have not been named. This particular mass grave is a great equalizer. There are blacks and whites and children and adults and Catholics and Protestants and people of no faith. There's even a man buried in there who was actually put in the trench because he was shot by a night watchman. He was a looter who was shot by a night watchman entering a store on Texas Avenue. His name is going to be on this monument too. We're honoring every single person whose name we have. I think a great significant historical contribution to our city. Obviously, that's the great emotional historical purpose of this monument. It has a more practical purpose as well. Some of you may be aware that because of the way that the trench was put in 1873 and the shallow nature of the top, for lack of a better way to put this, the top layer of burials, there have been occasional issues in the past of human remains coming to the surface, and this is particularly true after a heavy rain. It happened the last time about 3 years ago when city workers were weed eating along the Milam Street wall. And so this will actually serve the purpose, we think, a more practical one, of helping to seal that grave and that tomb into perpetuity. And so, again, I'm here to answer any questions anyone might have, but I'm very, very grateful to have the opportunity. We have raised the remainder of the funds. We didn't just match what the city has donated. We've actually had a great community response to give more. So, so very, very grateful for having the opportunity during this 150th, 1873, 2023. We are in the sesquicentennial year, and there is never going to be a better time for us to honor them and to honor everyone who contributed in any way to the relief and comfort of the city, certainly, but also to those victims of the yellow fever epidemic who, before now, have been nameless in history. Any questions at all?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Dr. White, thank you for your efforts. I've been following this. It means a lot that y'all have worked 10 years to get to this point. So I will definitely be supporting anything that we can do.
Thank you.
To move this along, because it's very symbolic, especially today with everything we've heard, that it doesn't matter what race you are at the end of the day, they're all down there together.
That's right.
I appreciate you putting this together, and I do support you.
Thank you. All right. I suppose that's sort of hard to argue with, isn't it? Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Dart, for your support very much. Thank you.
Dr. White.
Jeremy Taylor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy Taylor, P.O. Box 8453, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71148. I'm here to speak to you about case number 22-269C. A meeting was held at Stony Hill Neighborhood Association, or a meeting was held with Stony Hill Neighborhood Association group last night concerning questions about case number 22-269C. These were citizens that had concerns about my development. My development will consist of a mixed-use building which contains both commercial and residential. I cannot tell you what business will actually be in the commercial building, but it will bring life, light, and revenue to the area. It was a misunderstanding. They said it was going to be an amusement park. There's no such thing. It's going to, I don't know what kind of money they think I have, but I'm not putting any roller coasters in Highland. So there will be no amusement park of any kind. I do own the building on the corner, and the building on the corner which I was going to turn into a youth sports facility for my son. My son actually plays soccer. That building is already zoned commercial too. And it was going to be a youth facility, you know, before we even thought about the mixed development. We also scheduled an NPP meeting for this Friday at 5 o'clock, where we rescheduled an NPP meeting for this Friday at 5 o'clock. But those same citizens who we had the meeting with on yesterday evening were going to be the same citizens that actually showed up to the meeting this Friday at 5. If it is the desire of the council to delay this for 2 weeks and I conduct this meeting, I'm in support of that delay. That's fine. The desire is transparency and the residents understanding what my proposal is. Anyone have any questions for me?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Taylor did attend the Stoner Hill Neighborhood Association last night.
Yes.
And I have spoken with the president of the association, and they are happy with his presentation. So it is in District B, and I will be supporting it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you.
Madison, I'm sorry, I can't make out your last name. Madison? Yes, thank you.
Good morning. I have some handouts for y'all, so just give me one moment. Good afternoon. My name is Madison Cruson, 123 Pennsylvania Avenue. I know that sounds fake, but I promise that's my real address. So I'm here to talk about the speed traffic cameras pursuant to Article 13, Section 90-516. I have 4 particular grievances that I would like to bring up. I have more, but I'll narrow it down to 4. So my first issue with it is the contestation process. The administrative hearings used by Blue Line Solutions, I believe, are a violation of separation of powers pursuant to Article 2 and 3 of the U.S. Constitution. It's not granted in either of those. There are administrative hearings within the executive branch, but those are deemed constitutional because they have an appeals process to a court in a proper jurisdiction, whereas these administrative hearings are not appealable to a court. Alternatively, I think this is an attempt to coerce people into arbitration, which I don't think is supported by public policy in Louisiana. So my second grievance is that this is a violation of due process. So the reason that these like red light cameras were outlawed in Texas were because they deemed it a violation of due process. Because they would issue tickets based on ownership of the vehicles. And this is how they're issuing tickets now. They quote, if you look at the highlighted portion on the ticket that I've provided, it states that liability is based on ownership without regard to whether the owner was operating the motor vehicle at the time of the violation. So any lawyer like myself would tell you that this is a concept called strict liability. There's only 2 other places in the law where this is imposed: parents for their children and owners for their dogs, not pets, dogs. And these are 2 very narrowly tailored places in the law. So to impose strict liability on vehicle ownership, I think is pretty absurd. My third grievance, and I'll let you read through this. I'm not going to read through the whole restatement or revised statutes, but I don't believe that this ordinance is compliant with these statutes. And my fourth and probably most biggest complaint is I believe they're using the color of state law fraudulently. I believe they're falsely leading people to believe that Shreveport Police Department is more involved in the issuing of these violations than they actually are. If you'll notice on the ticket, on the highlighted portion of the front, it says sworn to or affirmed by a reviewing officer, and it lists an officer's name and his badge number. I contacted Shreveport Police Department to make sure this is an actual officer, and he is, but then I learned that he does not review or sign the tickets. If you'll notice, it's a printed signature. So it says sworn to, affirmed by reviewing officer, leading people to believe that people watch these videos and sign off on these. So in closing, I'll say that this ordinance would be one that we expect with the previous administration. However, we elected Mayor Arsenault to change the status quo, and this is your opportunity to right the wrongs of the previous administration and renew faith in Shreveport's local government. Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Black. Elizabeth Black.
I'm Elizabeth Black. I've lived in the Broadmoor area 57 years in the same house and travel on Cresswell all the time. And I'm here to protest the violation of going in a over 15 miles an hour in a speed zone in which the school is no longer even a school in session. They have scaffolding out in front of the school. I go that way all of the time, and yet I received a ticket. There were no flashing lights, nothing to indicate it. It was in the afternoon, later in the afternoon, after school time would have even been over. And so I'm here to protest this and to protest these camera things. And then when I called about the ticket, it was issued out of Chattanooga. So, I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what we're doing here, but I mean, it is something that I think is wrong, and especially to do it in zones that are not even active school zones. So I request that you all do something about it and give those of us that have received tickets not have to pay them. And I did, when I called Chattanooga, they said, well, I could pay a bail bond of $50 and to go to court to protest it. And I said, I'm not doing that. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, anyway.
Thank you.
Marilyn Couch. I'm sorry. That's what it looks like on here.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Couch, and I live on Columbia Street near Gilbert. And I got a ticket for speeding going 27 miles an hour in a 15-mile-an-hour school zone at Cresswell Elementary. And my friend Betty Black got a ticket as well there. And when I saw my granddaughter, who lives on Columbia Street, also got a ticket, and her roommate. And I thought, well, if everybody's getting a ticket, there's got to be something wrong. So I walked the route, and I realized where I got my ticket, and I bet a lot of other people, is if you go in the back part of Brookshires down Rutherford Street on the left-hand side of Cresswell Elementary, the sign that says 15 miles an hour is facing away from you, and you don't even see it, because on the other side it says 35. So when you make that turn and you go around and you go to Columbia Street, there's no sign anywhere going down, and you've already been ticketed. So that's what my research showed me. If you can't get out of the contract, I would ask to have the contract with this company that does the photo, because the whole idea, it was photo in the mail that I got the surprise, $125. And I'm retired, so it wasn't a happy day. And so the signs should be reviewed by the contract, where their location are. And then also the data collected to see where are these tickets getting the revenue, what are the area codes, and then how many signs do they have allowed by the contract, and can you add signs on the secondary streets. And then, can we get our money back from this? And that's my story. Thank you.
I have a question, ma'am. Ma'am?
Oh, I have
I
a
have,
question.
I have a question. So the Rutherford side of the school, between the Brookshires and the school, that's a one-way street, correct?
Yes, it is.
So when you're going
From-
west on Rutherford,
Right.
you're saying you take a right onto Crestwell?
Yes.
And that you're entering into the school zone on
Yeah.
the north side of the signs. You're not
Yes.
able to see the sign.
You can't see the sign.
Because you're entering already into the school zone.
Right, you're already in it.
Okay.
And
I'll
then,
have to- that's-
and then if you go down Columbia, then when you're going, if you look at Columbia, there's a sign that says 25 miles an hour past on that side, past that where the park is. And you can see that when you're driving, and then when you turn, it's 25 miles an hour all the way down Columbia towards me.
Okay,
So-
thank you.
That's a problem all over town. It happened to me in another school zone. I didn't get a ticket, but I was able to slow down quick enough, but I didn't realize because I turned off of a side street.
It's a
with
side
no
street.
markings, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in one of these school zones. I better slow down because I'm gonna get a ticket. But, generally, I don't think people think about that when they're turning off of a side street because they don't have that reminder to click. If you see a flashing light or school zone speed limit sign or something like that, then that, I'm in. But when you're turning off of a side street, it's problematic. So, I know there's a moratorium on the agenda for today. If that does not happen, I tasked the police department and Blue Line Solutions to find all of those and put a notice that you're turning into a school zone. Because I don't think it's fair to issue tickets if you're not given notice that you're in a school zone.
Right.
So I sympathize
Well,
with
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Edwards.
Good afternoon. My name is Bobby Edwards. I reside at 3325 Fernwood Lane here in Shreveport, Louisiana. To the president, to the council members, and also our mayor, thank you for having us speak our piece. My subject matter today is on the camera calibration. As a former United States Air Force veteran and a retired engineer on the Space Shuttle and Advanced Cruise Missile, I can tell you something about calibration. Okay? In my area on Jewel along in front of Westwood Elementary School, you got a camera consistently running off randomly 35, 40, 20, 50 miles an hour. You sitting at the red light looking at it. So when you pass through there, you riding your brakes at 15 miles an hour, but you're going to get a ticket for 40 if you pass that camera uncalibrated. I did an assessment of all the elementary schools area. Some of the schools were shut down. They took the signs down, no yellow lights, no time in the morning, no time in the evening time. You don't know when to do whatever. So my resolution is this. Put some speed bumps between that particular area where the cross guard crossed the kids across the street. And also as council members and police department and mayor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, don't have a closed door when a citizen have a concern who voted for you on this panel. Do not have a closed door. People have concerns. They've been in those neighborhoods for years, and it is very unfair to them to receive a ticket. Just like the young lady said, she's retired, her funds are limited. I've been on the phone with Chattanooga, Tennessee. I say, my Lord, do we have a champion here in Shreveport that would take care of us? Do we have to have an outside source to make a decision for us in Shreveport, Louisiana? I was born and raised in a shotgun house in Allendale, but I'm a retired engineer and a United States Air Force vet. I know better. Thank you.
Sam Brock.
Hi, and thank you for taking your time today. You should all have these pictures that were given out before. And so I'm here to address the school zone issue. And just like the young lady was saying just a minute ago, these pictures are over off of Claiborne Elementary School. The first picture you see is if you are going eastbound on Claiborne, as you're approaching the school, you can see the school to your right, and you see everything's clearly marked, school zone, when flashing, 15 miles an hour. The second picture is where Portland intersects Claiborne. Now, if you look to the right, you see those flashing lights, but you can't see those where the side street of Portland intersects Claiborne. So as you come up to that red light, you can't see that you're in a school zone. I got a ticket there. I got it at 3:56 in the afternoon. School closes at 2:50. There's no crossing guard. There's no students anywhere. So I came up to Claiborne, took a left, and you can see the picture, the third picture. And now that is, as I take a left, you see Claiborne Elementary on the right, no signal, no signs, no speed limits, no time of school zone. So I guess, you know, y'all are a lot wiser than me on how this works. You know the contracts. But if, I don't think it's fair that we've had so many people get so many tickets and have to send so much of our money to another state in situations that aren't clearly marked, that obviously Blue Line didn't come in here prepared to open their business. And I would suggest that maybe those tickets for these people that have gotten tickets, that Blue Line needs to look at maybe canceling those, come back, get everything right, and then reopen their business before we're sending all of our money unfairly that could be being spent at Brookshire's or Orlando's or Strawn's instead of someplace in Chattanooga. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair, can I speak to that?
Yes, sir.
So, couple comments. Blue Line has issued a letter to our mayor that was shared with council on several different changes in that they want to propose to the city. One of which will have a dedicated person here in Shreveport that you can actually get in contact with the 318 number. That person will be somebody that's from Shreveport, hired from Shreveport, who's familiar with our areas to make sure that a lot of these concerns can get addressed. Blue Line has also offered to put up flashing lights for every area that does not have flashing lights. If we go back and look at our ordinance that was approved by the last council, the flashing lights was not something that was required in order to issue a ticket. That was just more or less for courtesy. However, when we go back to looking at the particular times, the proposed times that were issued for the school zone was proposed by the city. That was not something that Blue Line offered with the time zones. So we're looking at changing the times for a third time. These are all proposed changes. So the first time we had some time zones, people didn't like it. We changed it to a second time, and that's where we are right now. We're proposing to change that time zone to a third time, and because we have elementary schools that gets out early, we have middle schools that gets out a little bit earlier, but not as early as high schools. So the proposed times will be 3 different time zones, one for elementary schools, one for middle schools, one for high schools. I was not for these third change of time zone because I know how confusing it can get. I've gotten several tickets myself. If we go to the customized time zone, is what I'm calling it, then I do believe that we do need to have flashing lights at every school zone, because people who are just driving around, I'm in real estate, you're in real estate, we can't look to our left and right and try to figure out that this is a middle school, a high school, or whatever. At that point, it's too late. So we are proposing that we do have flashing light at every school zone, so it'll be clear if that school zone is active or not. With that being said, there's another caveat to that. The flashing lights will be controlled by the city. So if those flashing lights are not properly monitored in time, then that's something that's another issue that the city is going to have to deal with, because we'll be monitoring the flashing light to make sure they're in sync with not only the cameras, but also the physical time as to when they're being operated. I'm sharing this with you because, like I said, there are a lot of concerns. The company Blue Line is adamant about working with the citizens. Our mayor has been adamant about working with the citizens. This council has been adamant about working with the citizens to make sure that we alleviate a lot of these problems. and that everything can be conducted above board and fairly. Let's keep in mind the biggest concern that we were trying to accomplish was to make school zones safe for all the kids. That is the biggest concern. But also we want to make sure that everybody has proper notice, know when they are in a school zone, what time those school zones are, and when to slow down. So we hear your concerns and we are working to alleviate them. Thank you.
Man, y'all solved the issue. Craig Lee, 1112 Prospect. I want to commend the citizens for their advocacy, and you've already worked on solution, because the last part of what you said is the most important thing. Being with dads on duty, as I stated on yesterday, Walker Road is a potential death zone as people zoom up and down that street carelessly, even with flashing lights. So I can tell you that it has been a marked increase with the cameras. And so because of the advocacy, Councilman Jackson and this council, I think that is great that you're going in that direction, because we definitely need this particular technology. And I was doing some research before I came for our illustrious Councilman Telefaro, who came up with the legislation to postpone this, put a moratorium on this. And I think he would agree, having been over Crime Stoppers and having had radar detection in the past, when these new technologies come in, you're going to have some issues. And so we just have to work through those issues, because we are talking about safety. So thank you. I don't have to spend a lot of time on that issue from that standpoint. Mayor, as it relates to Resolution 25, thank you. Shreveport is poised to be a major player in transportation. And it is past time that we get into the rail. How many of you have ever taken a train ride from Longview to Dallas? Any of you? Yo, you need to get on the train. $40 round trip from Longview to Dallas. But check it out, you can actually catch the bus from Shreveport. It's all included, round trip. It's the coolest thing. But we don't need to go to Longview to get on a train. So thank you, because the I-20 corridor is very important. So I'm glad that you're actually doing that. Definitely I'm in favor of honoring kinfolk, Mr. Roy Griggs, because Roy Griggs has done so many tremendous things in this city since he's come in here. So that's absolutely great. And finally, Councilwoman Bowman, the satellite office in your district, I didn't get a chance to speak on this yesterday, but that is a critical thing, so that we can alleviate a lot of the wait time that you have at the DMV main location in Shreveport. So those are those major things, but I'm glad that Councilman Jackson, you just addressed that, because this is community advocacy at its best. And so we now work through these situations so we don't have to get cursing and all this foolishness. We can now make some things happen. And Gary Brooks, you did a good job with this young brother back here. I'm glad you studied the legislation. All right. Thank you guys very much.
And by the way, the train picks you up in Marshall, not Longview.
Yeah, is it Marshall?
It's Marshall.
Okay, Marshall. Okay, good. But I love it.
Better yet.
Thank you. John Glover.
Good evening. John Glover, 9100 Walker Road, apartment 217, Shreveport 71118. On yesterday, I stood here at this podium and asked a question with regards to an agenda item. That item was the election of a clerk of council. I asked what was the process, the procedure that was to be undertaken to name one in this position. I did not get a response, hadn't gotten a response. But what I will share with you all is this. When I come before you, and I have said this before, it is not to be combative, it is not to be antagonistic, and it is not to definitely be disrespectful. My intent and purpose is to address agenda items, and I think that's what I've done at each and every interval standing before you all. So when I ask a question, whether you can answer it at that particular time, give me the courtesy of allowing an answer to come to me nonetheless. I thank you for your time, and you have a good day.
Ms. Glover? Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Glover, to answer your question, since you have not gotten an answer to that question, the charter is very unclear about how this body selects the clerk of council. There is no specific guideline in the charter of how it's done.
That's correct.
The charter basically says that the council can hire, fire, and create positions, and that's it. Now, how the majority of the council decides to do things, I may disagree with Councilman Green, or I may disagree with Councilman Brooks on how that happens. But as long as there's a majority vote, we're following the charter. So I just wanted to give you that courtesy of knowing exactly the process. There is no process. As long as there's 4 votes, that's the process. I don't agree with that, but that's the way the charter's written. And like I've said over and over again, this will probably make my 700th time to say this since I've been on this council. We need a charter review committee to review issues like this.
Mr. Butcher, do I have an opportunity to ask you a question with regards to what you just shared?
Sure.
Okay, so since you all have your own charter, but it doesn't give you any detailed information, how do you publicize these positions? Or is it just germane to whatever you all decide to do?
Well, it's not just our own charter, it's the city charter of Shreveport, so it's not the 7 of us that control it. So I want to make that clear. There is no specific language in that charter that says you have to do X, Y, and Z to create, hire, fire, whatever. So yes, I mean, if you've got a majority of the council that decides that they want to add this or that, then they can do it. Of course, public input will have to be given, which I think everybody in this room will have the opportunity, but it goes back to exactly what I said. We need a charter review. You know, I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but
Yes.
if there are 4 votes up here to do it, it's going to happen.
And that's the saddest part of the equation.
Well, that's just
And
the
I
way-
do
that's-
appreciate, because I went through the charter myself, and I did not see any specifics as to the question that I did ask regarding process and procedure. Again, I thank you for giving me that opportunity and then sharing it to me, that response.
Well, and with all due respect, it's our government, it's the way it's set up, and if the people don't like the way the government's set up, then we need to relook at our charter.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Charles Statlander.
I've got to get my glasses. Different Mr. Statlander, right? Hey, so, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair, council members, and mayor. My name is Charles Statlander, and my address is 624 Texas Street, Shreveport, 71101. I rise to speak to you today in regards to 3 agenda items. First, ordinance number 4 is amended. Second, the Director of Council Affairs position. And third, the Clerk of Council position. I currently serve as the Analysis Manager for the City of Shreveport's Department of Economic Development. Born and raised in Shreveport, I love this city. It is where my family lives. It is where I grew up. The city of Shreveport has given me so much. Though I left Shreveport shortly after graduating high school to chase my dreams, ultimately attending college in Missouri, attaining a master's degree in public administration at Georgia State, and earning a doctorate from Loyola, I have never forgotten where I came from, and it is why I came back here to serve. The city of Shreveport is diverse. It is this diversity that makes us strong. We must all embrace this diversity through recognizing the institutional harms and policies that have been designed to oppress the upward economic mobility of some of our most marginalized minority communities. And this is why I have serious concerns with Ordinance 4 as amended before you today. This concern does not come from any place of personal interest. This is my final week of employment with the City of Shreveport. After the administration introduced Ordinance 4, I felt that intrinsically I needed to take a different career path, and as such, I have accepted an appointment and employment with the City of Dallas. This means that I am not speaking here in some last-ditch effort to save my job. Instead, I am here because of deep-rooted concerns for the future of economic development in the City of Shreveport. To be clear, the first proposal of Ordinance 4 was to completely abolish the Department of Economic Development. After appropriate oversight by the council, as well as charter provisions requiring a Department of Economic Development, the administration changed course and decided to simply reduce the Department of Economic Development to a sole employee, while stating publicly that it was going to fund private organizations to do much of the city's economic development work. Economic development is too important in the City of Shreveport to simply dole out its funding to private groups. Having been appointed to my current position by Mayor Perkins and working for Mayor Arsenault for the past couple of months, I have come to realize what an honor it is to serve the citizens of Shreveport, and most importantly, the necessity of an in-house economic development department that is not simply a placeholder, but that is fully staffed and supported in its critical work. As part of my job duties, I am responsible for attending council meetings. Through these experiences, I have had the privilege, the sincere privilege, of watching each of you perform your jobs as elected public servants diligently and professionally. Mr. Chair and Madam Vice Chair, your commitments and passion for equality, diversity, inclusion, and upward, sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional. Economic mobility for some of our most historically marginalized.
Mr. Statlander, you've come up on your time.
I'm sorry.
But you
Motion
said,
to extend, Madam.
that's fine. Second.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Statlander, we finishing up in a minute?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Upward mobility for some of our most historically marginalized is incredible and admirable. Thank you. I ask the council to please consider postponing passage of Ordinance 4 and working with the administration to develop a sustainable and long-term economic development strategy for the City of Shreveport. If the council does decide to pass Ordinance 4 today, I implore you to please hold the administration accountable for its economic development actions or inactions. Mr. Mayor, I ask that you also hold your administration accountable as well. Finally, I would just simply like to offer my support for Councilman Jackson's proposal to hire a Director of Council Affairs. Having worked in numerous public administrative roles, including serving as Senior Advisor to Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, I can speak from firsthand experience that the City of Shreveport is lacking in its support of the legislative body. The Director of Council Affairs position is a critical first step toward improving the legislative process in the City of Shreveport, but it can't be the last. I would also like to voice my support for Ms. Generica Flemings to become the next council clerk. I have worked with Ms. Flemings on numerous projects, including some that were stressful and tense. Ms. Flemings has the skill set, the personality, and the knowledge base to serve as an excellent council clerk. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I haven't shied away from the importance of what I feel like the economic development brings to Shreveport. I've had a conversation with our mayor, and he has shared with me that economic development is important to him, that he's not removing any of the salaries from that department, and they will hire a director. That's what I was told, that's what I was believed, but I will allow the administration to speak to that, to clarify that for me.
Mr. Chairman, may I
Yes, sir.
speak? Yeah, the amendment that we do leaves the full funding for the Department of Economic Development as it was. And I have sent to each of you a draft of a description of the Director of Economic Development. That's the main reason that I haven't, after our discussions, the main reason that I have not filled that position is I need to advertise it. I wanted the people who might apply for it to know exactly what they might expect. So I have received some comment from you, and I intend to move forward with that appointment. As I've said once before in this council, Once I have somebody on board, then we can determine what staff is required, but all the funding for the Department of Economic Development stays as it is after the amendment.
That's what I thought you said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman, may I simply respond to your question? I just simply would say thank you. We really appreciate that. The Department of Economic Development is incredibly important. The only concern I have with that is that there's $250,000. If we're going to pay a single employee $250,000, that's a lot of money. So what's going to happen to that extra money, that $80,000 to $100,000 for the salary? Just want to make sure that extra $150,000 isn't being doled out to the NLEP, which represents 13 parishes, and other private groups. That it's too important for our marginalized communities in Shreveport that we have an in-house Department of Economic Development.
And I think the biggest, one of the concerns that we have, and we've shared this with the mayor, is to the reason that he is making sure that he designates a person for economic development, because when you roll out to those particular organizations, what they're looking at is industry-wide. We look for things more specific for our council districts, the needs, the assessment, someone to go out there to make sure that we have a middle person that will be able to articulate those ideas, that also will be able to work with those particular organizations in doing so. All of our constituents, regardless of what district that we live in, always talk about how important economic development is. And if it is imperative for us not only to just look at certain companies coming here, but also prepare our citizens and have a skilled workforce, because that also constitutes what companies will look for. If we don't have a strong skill set, a strong educational system, and building that, building the economy up, I'm going to say your personal economy. If we're living below the poverty level, then we have to think about what we will be attracting here. So I think that that is a strong push for each council person that is represented here, and very specific to our districts, because we have to look along those lines if we want growth in the city of Shreveport. What we're looking at in the collective, Mr. Statlander, is not growth for one area, growth for the entire city of Shreveport. And so we specifically said to the mayor that we want to have somebody that will understand the urban culture of our city as well.
Yeah, you have a food desert, a lot of food
Correct.
deserts in your district.
Correct.
And that's something that has to be addressed.
It is imperative that we
Correct.
have those in Allendale, as well as in the MLK area, which is your third largest African-American district in the United States, where you don't have a grocery store and where you don't have accessibility to those things. So when we look at economic development, we not only look at it industry-wide and then being ready for whatever company is deciding to come our way and looking at those particular tax incentives, but we're also looking across the board in our respective districts of what the need is, and making sure that our constituents have accessibility that will enhance their quality of life.
Hey, thank you so much for your time, council. Thank you, Mr. Talaferro, for the motion to extend. It's been an honor to work for the city of Shreveport, the honor of a lifetime, and thank you so much for all your service.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hey, we losing you. You can come back home. That concludes public comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have no executive appointments to consider today. There are no items on the consent agenda for introduction or to be adopted. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with regular agenda legislation?
Resolution 166 of 2021. It was previously postponed on January 10th until March 28th.
Ms. White, could you just speak up? I can barely hear you over here. Thank you, Ms. Thanks.
Resolution 24, authorizing the mayor to execute an acceptance of an act of donation between the City of Shreveport and Esplanade Properties LLC, hereinafter called owner, and acting herein through Michael Salter, President, for the water and sewer main extensions and related facilities to serve Esplanade Phase 6, Stage 1.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Did they move in second? Did y'all move in second?
So moved.
Second.
But it's not, we're not getting anything up here. Y'all have anything down there?
No.
I got it.
Nobody's getting anything?
I have mine.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
I don't have anything.
Councilwoman Taylor?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Telefano?
Yes.
Councilman Butcher?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
Yes.
Councilman Green?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Bowman?
Yes.
That passes with a 7-0 vote.
Thank you.
And it just popped up. I don't know.
Resolution 25, authorizing the mayor to execute a CEA with the cities of Monroe and Ruston, Louisiana, and Vicksburg, Mississippi, to seek grant funding under the federal-state partnership for intercity passenger rail program.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Booth.
Second.
Second by Councilman Brooks. Are there any questions or comments on this item? If not, push the button.
You come up yet, Mr. D?
Mine still hadn't come up.
I have a
We got,
quick
we
complaint.
got to close it out.
I had to close out and reopen it.
Mine just doesn't like. I don't dare. I'll never get back in.
Okay.
I'll trust myself.
Mine's up. Yeah, I just closed, I just clicked out and reopened it.
That passes with a 7-0 vote.
Resolution 26, honoring Roy Griggs for his extraordinary leadership, service, and philanthropy in Shreveport, Louisiana, and the surrounding areas.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Chair, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
That passes with a 7-0 vote.
Resolution 27, honoring Lawrence Andrew Anderson for his extraordinary contributions to sports and the Caddo Parish school system.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by the Chair, second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Passes with a 7-0 vote.
Resolution 28, requesting the Louisiana Department of Motor Vehicles to authorize a satellite location of the Office of Motor Vehicles in District G.
Moved by Councilwoman Bowman.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Taylor. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I missed this yesterday. I'm 100% for it, but I also would not be opposed, and I'm not trying to take anything out of closer to my district or your district, but I think it might not be a bad idea to move the whole office over there somewhere off of Pines Road. I mean, there's so much space over there real estate wise, and you've got the one in Bossier, and if you had that one, it would cover both ends, but that's just my opinion. Because the old building that's out there on Normandy is in pretty bad shape. So, I mean, I don't know if that's possible, but I do like that idea. Anyway, my 2 cents.
Thank you.
We call for the vote.
Any other question or comments? Not push the button.
You got it? 7. It passes with 7.
Resolution 29, accepting the public dedication of Newborn Lane, Newborn Circle, and Creston Lane right-of-ways in Lakeside on Long Lake Unit Number 7 subdivision.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher,
Second.
second by Councilman Brooks. Are there any questions or comments?
Sounds very good at it now.
That passes with 7.
Resolution 30, accepting the public dedication of Pitcairn Point and Roxbury Place right-of-ways in St. Andrews, subdivision unit number 3.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Butcher,
Second.
second by Councilman Brooks. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
That's your second today.
All right, okay.
I hear it all.
That passes with 7.
Resolution 31, encouraging the Shreveport Police Department to place a temporary moratorium on the issuance of all citations pertaining to violations enforced by photographic speed enforcement system.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Councilman Telefair, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr.
not-
Chair, I'd like to
Yes, sir.
make a statement regarding that, if you don't mind. The resolution before you today is a result of many hours of conversation with both my constituents and some of yours regarding the citations being issued for speed in selective school zones. To quote Councilwoman Taylor in a previous meeting, you don't get the calls that I get. I've heard the issues of lights, times of operation, signage on feeder streets, entering into a school zone, citations being issued when some schools are not even in usage, and many other instances which at the time of this meeting have not been resolved. Many of our citizens, teachers included, have received multiple citations in the same school zones due to a failed process. I'm old school, and many of you know that this is not one of the things that I believe in, but we have it. And so I'm all about having an officer issue a citation rather than a piece of equipment. But while I'm not in favor of this method of enforcement, I cannot argue that based on Blue Line and the statistics that they presented to us, 83% school zones, actually the violations in school zones have been decreased by 83%. With a large number of the same concerns I received, I can only conclude that this program was introduced citywide prematurely before all research was compiled thoroughly and vetted by our own police department. The citizens I have spoken with do not have any issues about paying a fine for a law that they have broken, but they do have issues when rules of engagement are not clear and the rules of common sense are not applied. Our citizens should not be continually penalized while we work out the kinks of this program. Let's put the brakes on any further enforcement, collect the necessary data, fix the issues to have a seamless and fair photo enforcement system which focuses on the safety of all of the citizens of Shreveport. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I would just like to kind of go on record with the reason that I seconded this and to kind of give a little bit of background about how this all started. I think there were really only 3 of us up here right now that were here whenever this started. And it started with the presentation on the recommendation of then Chief Ben Raymond for Blue Lines to come in and kind of tell us what their program was. And of course, that was right after there was an accident in Texarkana that I want to say killed a crossing guard. It was a very sad situation. And we do admit that we have a speeding problem in our school zone. So I think we all were very receptive to that. We watched their presentation, and then as public safety chair, I called a public safety meeting again at, it was actually at the police station because the chamber had another incident. We asked a lot of questions. Unfortunately, at both of these presentations, there was not very many citizens involved, even though there were agendas that were put out. So my fear, I asked the gentleman, and I can't remember his name, I apologize, Mr. Hutchinson, is that correct? I asked whoever was giving the presentation at the time, if we get into this and the citizens don't like it, can we get out? And of course, the answer was yes, you can, with a penalty. I never knew that this was implemented after that meeting. We voted to allow electronic monitoring of speed, but I never knew that this system was ever going into place. I don't think that the system was set up properly. I know Blue Line has spent a tremendous amount of money getting the system set up and should be able to recoup that cost. But the citizens in my district do not like it. I receive call after call after call. It's as simple as what Councilman Jackson was saying earlier. Providing extra lighting and signage is a great thing, but there on Ockley Drive, right in front of AC Steer School, I got a text message last night that in one spot it says 15 miles an hour from 2:30 to 4:30, and then in another area it says from 2:30 to 3:30, and in another area it says from 2 to 4. These are in the same school zone. So the city has a little bit of responsibility. Well, the city has a great deal of responsibility. We didn't have our ducks in a row by the time we've implemented this. From what I've heard, we have collected somewhere close to $600,000. I'm not sure that I've seen that in any spreadsheet, but the city itself has netted almost $600,000 since this program started. Now we're very reluctant to put a water bill, a $5 fee on a water bill, because it hurts the underprivileged, even though it would provide assistance to the fire department and police department. We're in a critical spot where we have a 13% raise that we're going to have to overcome. But we're charging people $50, which was never presented to us in the presentation, that we charge people a $50 bond. The fees were never presented in the original presentation. Now, what happened after that presentation? The council did not approve this. This was signed by the mayor, not by the council. So the only reason that I'm voting, and if we have a contractual obligation, then we need to uphold that contractual obligation. But that contractual obligation was not something that I, as a councilman, approved. And so what I'm wanting to do is, let's put a moratorium on it. Let's get all our ducks in a row that are not in a row, and then let the contract run out, and then this council as a whole decides if this program is something that we need to push forward with. I'm not ready to make that decision right now, but I am ready to give the citizens some relief. I mean, we had a lady that's retired. $120 to somebody that's retired is a lot. And in some cases, I got an email the other day, a lady had breast cancer, went through a school zone during Christmas when the schools were closed, on her way to chemotherapy, and got cited, and she's been having a fight for almost 3 weeks. And she's on a fixed income with cancer, and they were going to charge her $50 just to appeal it. So I would like to see us do a moratorium on it, get all of our ducks in a row, then re-implement it with the changes that Councilman Jackson is proposing, or that the mayor has proposed, and Councilman Jackson just reassured that we are going to have done. And let's proceed with it, finish our contractual agreement, and then we'll go from there when that contract's up. So I support Councilman Talaferro's resolution, and I think that we just need to kind of put the brakes on it and make sure that we have everything in order where the citizens are getting the best service that they can. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So for me, it's all about accountability, not only on the city's part, Blue Line's part, but also the citizens. We wanted to make sure that everybody is doing their part, and I believe we're still working together. There's some moving and missing piece. So I want to introduce a subsequent motion to postpone this. I do not want to vote on this today, simply because I do not know if it's a violation of our contract. I'm not an attorney. I do not want the city to have to pay back any type of penalty by us intervening and stopping this process, because there is some language in the contract that speaks to that. Again, I'm not an attorney, so because I'm not sure, I want to introduce a substitute motion to postpone it so we can allow our attorneys to review it. So the mayor's office and Blue Line continue to work together with a solution that we can come back and present to the citizens that's going to be fair for all and make sure everybody's held accountable.
Been a substitute motion by Councilman Jackson. I'll second it. It's on the floor. Councilwoman Bowman.
Yes, I just want to make sure that the city is doing what we need to do. I know Blue Line came 2 weeks ago, and we spoke about all the issues that was on our end. I just want to make sure the city is taking responsibility as far as the flashers, everything that Blue Line told us that they needed. Mr. Dart, can you help me with that?
Blue Line has agreed to install the flashers.
Okay, they did, and it seems like in another meeting, we need to discuss what's really going on, because I took over 3,000 calls from my constituents, made sure everything was done the right way, listened to their frustrations. I didn't just say in the program. Let's find out what the program, what's wrong with the program, and fix it. I mean, it's the safety. I just want to make sure we're doing what we need to do.
Yes, ma'am, we've been working very diligently to do precisely that.
Okay, so the problems that's going on now, is that still on Blue Line?
There are a couple of issues we needed to get the times straight because of the change, because of the differences in times of schools, and we have apparently what we have proposed to Blue Line is acceptable to them. We sent them an email today in response to a letter that we got at 10 o'clock last night to try and address the remaining issues, and I think we're at the stage where we will have something in line with the council's preferences with respect to the times, and have the issues worked out with Blue Line. And as you know, this precedes our administration, and we've been dealing with it. I think effectively we can't fix all the tickets, and I think that's part of the complaint. There is an ordinance, as you know, there is an ordinance on first reading that will do away with the $50 deposit requirement, which will be a step in the right direction for certain. And I will tell you, Ms. Bowman, as I've told you privately, I have spent more time on this issue than any other issue since I took office, without doubt. And so we're trying very, very hard to get this behind us in compliance with the contract and with the ordinance that the previous council passed.
And Mr. Mayor, I do support the removing of the $50. We do want everybody to have the right to appeal without cost, especially while we continue to work through our issues.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
A quick question. If the original resolution as proposed by Councilman Talaferro passes, does that bind the mayor to do a moratorium, or would he have to investigate that before he could do it? Or is this more of a suggestion, and this may be a legal question, is this more of a suggestion from the council to the mayor? He's the one that, well, his predecessor is the one that entered into that contract, and I don't think we have the right to get out of that contract. Is that correct?
That is correct. I did speak to Councilman Talaferro and told him that even if this passes, we would have to speak with Blue Line and work out the contractual terms before anything can be terminated.
Okay. I would prefer us just to do the moratorium, but I know there's a motion on the floor. So.
There's a motion on
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, may I speak to the second?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for me, it's you can place a moratorium, you can delay it, but there's got to be some compensation for the citizens that have been unnecessarily, unfairly tagged because of a faulty system. The problem that we have is that we are fixing it on the fly. And unfortunately, the citizens of Shreveport are paying the price still. Now, if we're going to put the brakes on this, and we're going to, for lack of a better word, delay it, then I'm going to ask the Shreveport Police Department, Blue Line, whomever is in charge of issuing citations in the school zones, that while we're working out the nuts and the bolts of this system that should have been worked out long before I came on, that they don't get to issue any citations until we get our act together. I think that's the fair thing. Again, you don't get the calls that I get. And so this is something I'm very passionate about, because it's not about just the citations that are issued. It's about being fair, and it's about being professional and doing the right things right.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree. And for me, I have taken over 3,000 calls and talked to everyone in my district about these tickets. The ones that I didn't feel that was fair, I made sure that they were heard. I made sure they were taken care of. But sometimes when we have a flaw, we fix it. If it's the safety of the kids, we fix the flaw, but we don't just say, I'm tired of taking the calls. It's part of our job.
Thank you.
We don't have enough crossing guards or anything like that for these school zones. Am I correct, Mr. Mayor?
The crossing guards we pay, I believe well, I'm gonna let Mr. Dark answer that one to make sure that we get close to an accurate answer.
All I know is that we have an arrangement with the school board where we do pay for the crossing guards they have. I don't think that they have them all the places they'd like, because it's kind of hard to find folks who want to do that.
And so we receive no contribution from the school board for that?
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was a huge
And
issue a few years ago.
Thank you.
And so in the interim, while we have this on, if this is on pause, then what is the remedy for the protection of the children if we just heard Chief Wayne Smith say we short? And you all just said we don't have enough crossing guards. Because the safety is for the kids. That's my question.
Mr. Chair, if I may. I don't pretend to have all these answers, but some of the data that I've requested from Blue Line is that regarding and this was brought up at one of the other council meetings, one of the things I did request is that I want to know in a 2-hour window, whether it's in the morning or whether it's in the afternoon, I'd like to know the number of citations that are issued in each window, each hour window. That lets us know what our situation is as far as when we should actually have the school zones in place. For me to get a call at 4:30, for me to get a call for a citation that was issued at 4:30 in the afternoon when school let out at 3 and there's nobody else around is ridiculous. So I don't pretend to have all the answers. One thing is I'm requesting from the school board is I want to know where the crossing guards are. And I want to know what time they come on duty, and I want to know what time they get off. You can't have it both ways. You can't run radar in a school zone where crossing guards are assigned by Caddo Parish schools and they get off, and yet you're still running a school zone. It's either safe or it's not safe. If it's safe for a radar or it's safe for a crossing guard, it's safe to use the radar. I get that. But you can't have it the opposite way. So I don't have all the answers. Of course, Chief Smith will tell you that, you file a radar complaint. They have officers out there. It's not just traffic that has radar in their units now. You have, and he can be more articulate than I can, you have more cars with radars in them than you probably did before. At least that's what I'm told. If it's not, it's not. And maybe traffic is still the only people that run radar, but I don't know. But the point is that, yes, I agree with Councilman Taylor, is that it's all about safety, and I don't like revenue over safety. I don't. If you're going to be safe and we get a little revenue, that's great, but it should not be a revenue generator as the sole purpose. And I think that if we're going to do anything, we cannot continue to penalize our citizens that go through these school zones, and we haven't done our homework, we haven't implemented them correctly. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And I don't think we're penalizing the citizens, so let's be honest with ourselves. These school zone times have been enforced since way before the cameras. The only difference is the cameras are holding people to an accountable. That's the only difference. So if we get more cameras and we're able to solve crime, it doesn't mean that the crime is not a crime. It just means that we have the ability to hold people accountable. Now, I do agree there are some issues that we have to address, but I'm not going to back down on accountability. This was designed to hold people accountable. If it's a school zone, you need to slow down for the safety of our kids, period.
I mean,
And I don't disagree. I'm all about accountability, but I'm also about accountability of the people who installs the systems. And, you know, we as a city, you know, bought into this system, and that's fine. It's a done deal. You know, but the least that we can do is make sure the system functions correctly.
And I agree with that. And Blue Line was here. And so, again, amidst of those concerns, when they were right here, then bring them back to the table again and say, this is what it is that we're looking at and this is what we're having. My question is, in the interim, what is in place for the protection of our children, since we are saying we don't have crossing guards and we do not have police officers that will be able to man every school zone when we know that speeding too is an issue. Correcting the problem for our citizens, I am 100% for that. I don't think anybody should unfairly receive a ticket, signage, and everything is important. My question becomes, what do we do for the children in the interim? That is my question.
And I agree. And I agree with Dr. Jackson, is that nothing has changed. All I want is nobody gets cited until we get everything, all of our data, everything in place. Every school zone functions the same way, using the same principles, and produces a great product.
So
That's it.
If we're saying that no one gets cited, I understand that part. Does that then become the responsibility of SPD to monitor school zones? That's what I'm asking.
Mr. Chair, Councilwoman, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I would like the chief, could the chief come up? Because I have a question about the school zones.
He's gone.
He's gone?
Yeah. But
He says,
what's on the floor is this, is that a motion to postpone this legislation as we work through the problems and the situations. Two is, I drive through the school zones. There are people that's speeding, and it's dangerous for the children. I know that now we have a good way to say, hey, I wasn't speeding, I wasn't whatever. If you drive through the school zones, if you go to one right now, there are some people speeding. They're speeding. They're not going to say they were speeding. When it comes to a crime, Councilman Teleferro, you know that when it comes to a crime, I didn't do it. It was my cousin who did it, and I just wasn't there. So at this time, I think what we need to do is take on the substitute motion from Councilman Jackson, postpone this, let them work through this with the mayor. He said he just got a letter. Let's give the mayor the opportunity to at least talk to Blue Line about what they're talking about before we make a drastic measure that may cost us more money in a lawsuit. So let's just postpone this substitute motion. It's on the floor to postpone it. The mayor just said last night they got a letter at 10 o'clock. So apparently this company is trying to work to get the bugs out of it. And so let's at least let the process take its place. That's the best that we could do for this situation. Councilman Teleferro?
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. You know, if you want to put the brakes on this, that's fine. And we can work the bugs out. We can get with Blue Line. We can get with the city administration. We can get with the police department. I'm all for that. That's the whole purpose of this resolution. But we should not, while we're working the bugs out, fixing what should have been fixed, it should have been a turnkey product from day one. And it is not. With the number of calls that we get, it's a failing system in many areas. So if we want to delay it, I'm fine with that while we work the bugs out. But I'm not fine with still penalizing the people that go through these failed systems in our area.
Mr. Chair,
My last word.
The chief came in. I have just a quick few questions.
Chief, would you come up? Somebody's in the audience that's speaking out. Would you please respect while we're conducting business?
Chief, I don't think you were the chief at the time, but there was a huge deal about the crossing guards, and I'm not even sure Councilwoman Taylor was on the council at that point, but we ended up having a public safety meeting. The school board came, several school board members. Do we have crossing guards on 4-lane highways or 4-lane roads at elementary schools?
I am not sure. I know some schools, there are 2 crossing guards, so I would have to assume, it's an area with possibly 4 lanes, yes. I know at one while we were authorized, I had 98 or so school crossing guards, and I'm not sure how many do I have right now, but I know that even at that number, that never was enough to have adequate crossing guards at every school.
But if I recall, I don't think we did anything to eliminate crossing guards. It was or funding for crossing guards. It was talked about, but we never did it.
No, sir. I still have funding for 98. I don't think I'm quite at that number about like all of the other positions, but we still have a considerable amount of crossing guards.
So, I mean, safety's always an issue
Yes,
with children, but we've operated this way for quite a while with probably similar numbers on crossing guards.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
If I recall, there were some high schools that lost crossing guards.
Yes, sir.
But no elementary or middle schools.
That's correct, as far as I know, yes, sir.
Second question I have for you, share with the rest of the council what you shared with me about the new black police cars, what they're equipped with.
Each one of them will be equipped with radar. Is that the part that you're
Correct.
talking about?
And that's something extraordinary due to the fact that we only had, 5 cars?
We only had 5, and due to grant funding, all of the black cars that you purchased, we got funding for 125 or 30 additional radars, and all officers are getting trained in radar operation, and there'll be one in every car in the near future.
So I would say that pretty much prior to Blue Line Solutions coming in, we have similar, if not better, traffic enforcement in school zones. Is that a stretch to say that?
I don't know what you mean by
Well, I mean,
better.
I'm just saying that we have, before Blue Line Solutions came in and the cameras were in place, the city of Shreveport probably has better coverage in school zones than we did before, just because we have officers going back and forth to calls, that have radar going.
Sure, we have good coverage.
And that we have not reduced a tremendous number of crossing guards, especially in elementary schools and
We had good coverage with the those cars that had radars and the motorcycles themselves. That was kind of their primary duty in the morning and in the afternoon during the school zone to monitor as many of them as they could. But needless to say, there are a lot of school zones here in Shreveport, and they were bouncing around town all over the place, and still are, by the way.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear in my mind, and I would like at a public safety meeting coming up soon for us to discuss these crossing guards in schools. I would like Councilman Talaferro, I would like to know where they are, what we're doing, any other proactive activity that we're doing in school zones, because safety is paramount to all of us for our children. So
Absolutely.
But I'm also, if we do postpone this, I'm with Councilman Talaferro. I think that there should be no fines and fees issued, and maybe we can put a strict timeline on the postponement. But I do agree that there are just too many issues and complaints that I'm getting from my district to continue as we're going along. So, Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other questions or comments?
And would Mr. Jackson be willing to kind of tag that onto his subsequent?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Yeah, as far as what we're talking about, rather than do the moratorium, if you want to put the brakes on it and let us do our homework, you want to just go ahead and go a little bit further there?
No, I won't add that to the motion. I will say that, as the mayor has already referenced, I'm gonna be supporting moving the $50. So everybody that has an issue would be able to go through the appeals process with no cost. Even more than the appeals process, Blue Line has been on the front lines with working with areas that have been brought up to concern. So once we research certain areas, if we can demonstrate that those areas were not properly signed, We believe that Blue Line as a company will address all those tickets within that given period in those given areas. So what has not been said is, let's say, for the sake of numbers, 5 or 10% tickets were given in error. You know, we're still looking at 90% of the people that have been speeding that now are being held accountable. So I don't want to throw a whole program away or put a pause that gives 90% of the people a free range to continue to break the law. However, that 10% or whatever that number may be, between your council person, Blue Line, and the mayor, we will work with you to making sure that nobody has to pay a ticket that they shouldn't pay. So we want to have the opportunity to look at those tickets, the times, different things like that, and investigate it so we can address it. Lastly, like I said, with the times, that was a city thing. That has nothing to do with the company. We set the school zone times, and we set the school zone times based on what we felt like was fair. So we did what we call block schedule. It made it simple for me. If the school zone time is 2 to 4, I know no matter where I'm at in the city, 2 to 4, I need to slow down when I'm going through school zone. A lot of people complain, so we changed it from 2 to 4 to 2:30 to 4:30. But that didn't work for everybody. So that's why now the third proposed change, which again has not been released to the public, so I'm sharing y'all with this, is to go to custom line time to allow where elementary school, it makes sense, middle school, it makes sense, high school, it makes sense. But if we're gonna go with that, the flashing light is important. It's important for me because I don't know these schools. So driving around, I need to know if the school zone is active or not. And so that's what we're working with going through that third school zone time zone. But the time zone was something that was recommended to Blue Line by the city, not the reverse.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you all still in response to Mr. Edwards' comment about a person here? Because Mr. Edwards' Blue Line did offer to have a dedicated person here in Shreveport to work with concerns, because I'm like you, I think that is absolutely necessary for you to be able to have contact with somebody face to face. Where are we on that? Because they offer to pay for that person, put them into the police department to work through those issues that we're looking at right now. And possibly more than one person until everything is situated the way that it needs to be. So my question to you all is, where are we on that?
Blue Line has agreed to provide that person. It's the location of the person, where that person will be located. Of course, then they have to fill the position.
Okay.
Thank you. So at this time, she can't answer. So at this time, ma'am, would you see us after the meeting? We can't answer it right now, but we'll get with you right after the meeting. At this time, on the floor, the motion is a substitute motion that this would be postponed. So at this particular time, we'll vote on the substitute motion. All in favor of the substitute motion at this time, you will vote yes. If you're not, you'll vote nay as to postpone. I voted. Okay.
I'm pushing it. Let me try it. Okay, let's try it now. Did it show up?
Motion passes with 5.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with the introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to March 14, 2023?
Resolution 32, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for parking system management with the Downtown Development Authority.
Any questions or comments on that? All we need is a motion.
A motion.
Motion by Councilman Brooks, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with introduction of ordinance not to be adopted prior to March 14, 2023?
Ordinance 18, amending the 2023 general fund budget. Ordinance 19, amending the City of Shreveport 2023 capital projects fund budget. Ordinance 20, amending the City of Shreveport 2023 capital fund budget. Ordinance 21, amending section 20-519 of the Code of Ordinance relative to administrative adjudication hearings for school zone speed violations.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on any of these items?
So moved on introduction.
Moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Brooks, that these items have been now introduced. Madam Clerk, would you proceed with ordinance on second reading and final passage?
Ordinance 4, amending the 2023 Riverfront Development Fund budget. There is one amendment. This amendment corrects the original submission, which reflects a decrease of $250,000 in receipts for personal service, as personal service expenses are not a source of revenue. Additionally, this amendment eliminates any reduction to personal service accounts, thus retaining funds for an economic development person on the mayor's staff.
So move on the amendment.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Butcher on the amendment, second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or
Yes.
comments? Question by Councilwoman Taylor.
Mr. Mayor, for the individuals that were in that office, Mr. Statlander is no longer there. You had the other individuals that were in there. Are they placed?
I'll have to defer to Mr. Dark on that question. Make sure the answer is
As of a
accurate.
week ago, we were down to one young lady. She was meeting with HR, and we were going to place her. She's going to stay on the payroll where she is until she is placed, but she is going to be placed.
Anyone else? If nothing else, push the button.
So moved on the ordinance as amended.
Moved on the ordinance, on the ordinance as amended by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Ordinance passes with 7.
Ordinance 9, amending the 2023 Community Development Special Revenue Fund budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman
Second.
Taylor, second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 10, amending the 2023 General Fund budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor,
Second.
second by Councilman Brooks. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 11, amending the 2023 Community Development Revenue Fund budget.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 12, amending the 2023 budget funding contractual service provided to Sporttrend by Metro Management Association. And the administration would like this one withdrawn.
So moved to withdraw.
Moved by Councilman Butcher,
Second.
second by Councilman Brooks to withdraw. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 13, declaring the city's intention to seize 2 parcels of adjudicated property in the North Cedar Grove addition in Section 24, Township 17 North, Range 14 West.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Jackson.
Second.
Second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Motion passes with 7.
Ordinance 14, zoning case number 22-215-C, rezoning property located north side of Murphy Street, contained by Arkansas Avenue, Ashton Street, and Alabama Avenue. Range R-1-5, single-family residential zoning district to R3 multifamily district.
So moved on the amendment.
Oh,
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor on the amendment. Second by the chair. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
I don't know why I have it twice. Moved in second.
Hmm?
Yes, we moved in second.
We can all agree on that.
That passes with 7. And I'm going to postpone this as amended.
A motion by Councilwoman Taylor, postpone as amendment.
Second.
Second by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
It passes with 7.
Ordinance 15, zoning case number 22-236-C, rezoning property located north side of Merrick Street, approximately 130 feet west of Roosevelt Avenue, from R-1-5 single-family residential zoning district to C-2 corner commercial zoning district.
Councilman Brooks, what's your-
Yes, I move that we postpone this for at least 2 weeks.
Okay, motion by Councilman Butcher to postpone. Brooks, I'm sorry, to postpone. Second by Councilwoman Bowman to postpone. You may speak now, Councilman.
I think this needs to be sent back to Mr. Clark's office. They had a meeting last night, and this gentleman, Mr. Pedros, did not attend. And I have a letter here signed by 25 or so of the residents, and they are all in opposition to this.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Do we need to postpone it, or do you want to just?
I think we should send it back to the MPC.
So
he
your
can-
motion is to remand it back to the
Yes,
MPC?
that's what I meant.
Councilman Brooks' motion is to remand it back to the MPC. It was seconded by Councilman Butcher. Are there any questions or comments? If not, let's push the button. That it be remanded back to the MPC.
Ordinance 16, zoning case number 22-244-C, rezoning property located north side of North Market Street, approximately 360 feet north of Arrow Drive, from I-2 heavy industrial zoning district to C-3 general commercial zoning district.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Taylor.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bowman.
Mr. Clark, we good with this? Okay.
Any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
It passes with 7.
Ordinance 17, zoning case number 22-269C, rezoning property located south side of East Stoner Avenue, approximately 870 feet west of Uri Drive, R-3 multifamily residential zoning district to C-2 corridor commercial zoning district.
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Brooks.
Second.
Second by Councilman Jackson. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. It passes with 7.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there any table legislation to be removed from the table?
No.
We have no property standards or ABO appeals to consider today. We have no MPC or ZBA appeals to consider today. Are there any other appeals, Madam Clerk? No. Are there any reports from officers, boards, committees? Madam Clerk, is there a clerk's report? Mr. Mayor, do you have any additional communication?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Does any council member have any additional communication?
Mr. Chair, the property sweep that was set for Allendale and Lakeside on tomorrow has been postponed to March 8th. So I just want everybody to know that.
All right, thank you.
I just would like, real quick, Chairman, I would like to, again, I mentioned it a little bit yesterday in my comments about our situation we have on Erie Drive, but property standards and Mr. Norman and Jarvis, they work, I'm sorry, Public Works, they work very quickly to get a bad situation cleaned up, and I really, really appreciate it. And like I said over and over again, y'all's department, along with many other departments in the city, make me look good, so I really appreciate your help.
Thank you. At this time, we will.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I may?
Yes, sir.
Communicate?
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to read the
Yes, sir.
statement. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you. Yesterday, when we interviewed these applicants that we were going to be voting on today, I asked a specific question regarding their philosophy. And the reason I asked that philosophy, and this had to pertain to government, but we're talking about philosophy in general, is that it sets them apart from others who do not have a philosophy. Each council member up here has their own set of philosophies. Some I agree with, some I don't. But those philosophies belong to them. They are theirs, they own it, and I respect that. Philosophies are your compass, your core values, which guide your actions. I was very troubled by what I witnessed yesterday in this, the People's Chamber. Therefore, as your public servant, I want to share with you my philosophy on public service. Jesus Christ was a public servant. And it was through humility, personal sacrifice, a maintaining of vision to those he served, catering more to those who didn't have than to those who did. It is incumbent upon us, it is our duty, it is a promise to the voters that we as elected officials remember we are public servants, first and last. We are mere temporary custodians of the responsibility that we have been trusted with, and long after we are gone from public office and out of the public eye, how we conduct ourselves will be remembered. We represent collectively the city of Shreveport, and what we do or don't do affects the whole. Competence and cooperation might attract new businesses and better paying jobs into our community, but ineffectiveness and division will not. Respect and dignity for one another will make others feel heard and proud to be a part of a community that listens to its people. Berating and belittling will make others feel as though they don't matter. And who wants to stay in a city, a church, a family, an organization, or a business where what they think isn't thought to be important? Therefore, I will never support any behavior of any elected official in or outside of this community that expresses an unwillingness to work together that creates division or initiates a practice that prioritizes political power over what is best interest of the people. Zig Ziglar said, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." Until we as public servants understand this, we may feel more and more important in our community, but our constituents won't hear a word we're saying. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we are up to two elections. We have two elections, the election of clerk of council. We have the election of director of council affairs. We will move on the election of the clerk of council first. After that, we will have the clerk to read into the minutes the order of the procedure for filling the position of director of council affairs.
Make a motion on the election for the clerk of council for Ms. Shanerica Flemings.
Second.
Has been moved by Councilwoman Taylor, second by Councilman Brooks,
Mr. Chair.
for the election of Shanerica Flemings for election of clerk of council. Mr. Butcher.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Green. As I said yesterday, I think that we should take our time and look into what the situation is with the clerk's office right now. 3 clerks in 3 years to me is excessive. I feel like the votes are already there for Ms. Flemings. I will be voting no today, and it's nothing against Ms. Flemings. It's just I wish that we could take a little bit of time and look into this a little closer. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any
Mr.
other-
Chair?
Yes, sir.
Where's Ms. Fleming? Is she in the audience? There you are. Okay. Sorry. Don't have the good glasses on today. I want you to know that I will be voting no as well, but this is not about you. I know of you. I don't know you. I think you're very capable, or else your name would never have been brought up. You would never have applied. This is all about what I feel should be a different process. I would like to have more opportunities to look at other individuals to assume this position that I think is the people's position, along with the city council. And I just want to let you know that this is not about you. This is about, I just don't believe that we've exercised the process that I believe that we should, and I want to make that clear to you. And I appreciate you actually applying. Thank you.
Are there
Thank
any
you,
other
Mr.
questions?
Chair.
Are there any other questions or comments? If not, push the button.
Congratulations, Ms. Fleming.
Thank you. At this time, we will move to the election of Director of Council Affairs. Madam Clerk, would you read the procedure into the record?
The voting procedure to fill the position of Director of Council Affairs shall be as follows. Each council member shall state the name of the candidate they desire to fill the position as their vote. The candidate to receive a majority vote from the council members present and voting shall be appointed to fill the position of Director of Council Affairs. If no candidate receives a majority vote, once all present and voting council members have cast their vote, there should be a second round of voting to only include the 2 candidates that received the highest number of votes. If there is a tie of more than 2 candidates receiving the highest number of votes, all tied candidates shall move to the second round of voting. This process shall continue until a qualified candidate receives a majority vote or until the council determines it is unable to come to a decision.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Once again, I ask that we postpone this. I don't know if we make a motion to postpone it, but I do. Again, I would like for us to postpone it until we get our house in order in the clerk's office. Can I make a motion to do that, Madam Clerk?
A second?
We've been moved by Councilman Butcher, second by Councilman Teleferro to postpone. Are there any questions or comments? If not, let's push the button.
Mine isn't up. It isn't up. But no to the postponement.
Okay.
Since my postponement didn't work, I nominate Mr. Anthony Nations.
Are we going in order, Madam
Going-
Clerk?
Yeah, thanks.
Do we want order?
Are we going in order according to the directions that you all gave? Or we are supposed to announce, or?
Should we just do aye?
Jackson down the line.
Say yes or no?
Well, who you nominated, and then I
Okay.
go back and do it in order on how you call the names.
So we're doing all the nominations up front?
Yes.
Okay. So on the floor right now, we have nominations for Mr. Nation.
Does that need a second?
No, I just need to know your motion. I mean, your nomination.
Just-
Councilman
just-
Jackson.
I'm gonna nominate, R.J. Johnson.
And Councilwoman Bowman.
Ralph R.J. Johnson.
And Councilman Green.
R.J. Johnson.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Ralph R.J. Johnson.
Councilman Talaferro.
Anthony Nations?
And Councilman Brooks.
Anthony Nations.
Okay, now we'll take the votes for Councilman Butcher's nomination, who was Mr. Nations.
What?
And I'll bring that up.
So the vote is for.
At this time, the
Tony
vote
Nations.
is for
This
Mr.
is
Nation.
for Tony Nations. Let me set it
Okay.
up for you guys. Okay. Now you can motion in a second.
Now you can motion and second.
Motion.
Moved by Councilman.
Moved by me.
Councilman Butcher, second by
Second?
Councilman Talaferro for Mr. Nation. Are there any questions or comments? If not, push the button. Mine is not up.
Yours not.
Let me go to
So it's on, nobody sees it?
Mine, I did. I got mine up.
Mine's not up.
Okay. Councilwoman Taylor?
No for Mr. Nations.
I heard him seeing if he picks him. Councilman Brooks? This
I
is for,
voted.
this is for Mr. Nations.
Okay.
Yes or no?
I voted yes.
Okay. Councilman Talaferro?
Yes?
Councilman Butcher?
Yes.
Councilman Jackson?
No.
Councilman Green?
Nay.
And Councilman Bowman?
Nay.
Okay. And that's 3 yeses and 4 noes for Mr. Nation. So now we'll take the motion for Mr. RJ.
So moved by Ralph Johnson.
Moved by
Director.
Councilwoman Taylor.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bowman. Are there any questions or comments?
Are they still not coming up for you?
There are no questions or comments, push the button.
That's enough button to push.
Yours not coming up?
Yes, mine didn't come up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
My
Okay,
vote is yes for Mr.
Yes, is for you?
Yes, for me.
Well, there's 4 yeses and 3 noes for Mr. RJ.
Congratulations, R.J.
We have no executive session. If there is nothing else to come before this body, we stand adjourned.
Congratulations.
Good to meet you. Thank you so much.